Thank you all for being here today. Fasten your seat belts as we explore the cutting edge of modern warfare. Israel's covert strike against Hezbollah using everyday communication devices. Over the next hour, we'll uncover the little known history of how Israel leveraged the power of pagers and walkie-talkies to target and eliminate key Hezbollah operatives. This is a story of technological innovation, strategic precision, and high-stakes game of espionage that has dominated the conflict between these two adversaries. Building on the previous slide's exploration of Israel's covert operation against Hezbollah, this segment delves deeper into the use of pagers and walkie-talkies as tools in this ongoing conflict. We'll examine how these seemingly innocuous communication devices became targets of sophisticated attacks, highlighting the ingenuity and technological prowess employed by both sides in this high-stakes game. The recent incident of a phone exploding in a Hezbollah member's pocket is just the latest chapter in this decades-long struggle, underscoring the constant threat of violence and the potential for unexpected escalations. As we move forward, we'll explore the historical context that shaped this conflict, tracing the key events and turning points that have defined the relationship between Israel and Hezbollah over the years. In the previous slide, we explored how the sudden and devastating pager and walkie-talkie attacks have rocked the region, leading to a new chapter in the long-standing conflict between Israel and the Lebanese militant group Hezbollah. But to truly understand the gravity of this situation, we must delve deeper into the historical context. The roots of this conflict can be traced back to the 1980s when Israel invaded Lebanon during the Lebanese Civil War. It was during this time that Hezbollah emerged as a Shiite militant group dedicated to resisting the Israeli occupation. Over the years, the tensions between the two sides have boiled over into several military confrontations, including the 7-Day War in 1993 and the Grapes of War military operation by Israel in 1996. The most recent major conflict was the 2006 Lebanon War, which resulted in heavy casualties on both sides. This protracted struggle has set the stage for the current escalation and we'll explore in the next coming slides. Building on the historical context we just covered, the situation took a dramatic turn in October 2023. Hamas, an ally of Hezbollah, launched a surprise attack on Israel from the Gaza Strip. In response, the Israeli military conducted retaliatory strikes against the targets in Gaza. Hezbollah, in a show of solidarity with Hamas, began firing rockets into northern Israel. These events mark the beginning of a new escalation in a long-term standing conflict between Israel, Hamas, and Hezbollah, setting the stage for the unprecedented pager and walkie-talkie attacks that would soon follow. The stage is now set for the events we'll be discussing in the upcoming slides, which will detail the timeline and impact of pager strike carried out by Israel against Hezbollah targets. Building on the events leading up to the current situation, on September 17, 2024, the conflict between Hezbollah, Israel, and Hamas escalated further. At precisely 2:37 p.m. local time, thousands of pagers used by Hezbollah operatives across Lebanon and parts of Syria suddenly detonated in a coordinated attack. The explosions caused widespread chaos in Hezbollah-controlled areas, with reports of fires breaking out and significant damage to their command centers and safe houses. This coordinated strike severely disrupted Hezbollah's operations as their leadership and operatives were forced to go into hiding, fearing further attacks. In the immediate aftermath, over 50,000 Lebanese civilians fled their homes, seeking safety from the unfolding crisis. The Lebanese emergency services were overwhelmed, struggling to cope with the influx of injured civilians and first responders. This unprecedented attack on Hezbollah's communication infrastructure set the stage for an even more significant follow-up strike the next day, targeting their walkie-talkie networks across Lebanon, Syria, and Iraq. Following the devastating pager strikes just a day earlier, the adversaries behind the operations wasted no time in delivering another blow to Hezbollah's communication networks across the region. On September 18, a series of synchronized explosions targeted Hezbollah's walkie-talkie communications in Lebanon, Syria, and Iraq. The coordinated attack effectively disabled Hezbollah's critical radio networks, severely disrupting their ability to coordinate operations across multiple fronts. The widespread disruption caused by the walkie-talkie attack had a significant impact on Hezbollah's overall capabilities. With their communication channels compromised, the group's leadership was forced to go into hiding, fearing further strikes and the escalation of the conflict. The details surrounding this latest operations are still unfolding, but one thing is clear: the adversaries behind these attacks have demonstrated their determination to undermine Hezbollah's strategic advantage and disrupt their activities across the region. Next, we'll take a closer look at the casualties and damage caused by these two devastating strikes against Hezbollah's communication infrastructure. Now let's examine the casualties, damages, and outcomes of this precision strike. 37 confirmed deaths, including 22 Hezbollah fighters. Over 2,000 injuries, many from shrapnel and burns. Extensive damage to Hezbollah command centers and safe houses. The attack severely disrupted Hezbollah's ability to coordinate operations across multiple fronts. Hezbollah's leadership was forced into hiding, fearing further strikes. The devastating blow to Hezbollah's communication infrastructure and command structure set the stage for the technical details we'll explore in the next slides. Now we'll explore how Israeli intelligence reportedly exploited weaknesses in the firmware of specific communication devices used by Hezbollah. By infiltrating the supply chain, Israel was able to plant microscopic explosive charges within the targeted pagers and walkie-talkies. Crucially, these explosives were designed to detonate only the devices favored by Hezbollah, minimizing collateral damage. Israel also developed the capability to remotely trigger the explosives, causing the simultaneous detonation of thousands of devices across Lebanon and the region. The sheer complexity of this operation underscores the high degree of sophistication and intelligence gathering required to identify vulnerabilities and infiltrate Hezbollah's communication infrastructure. Looking ahead, the immediate aftermath of these devastating attacks saw Hezbollah's leadership go on to hiding. While Lebanese emergency services struggled to cope with the overwhelming scale of the casualties and damage. The aftermath of the pager and the walkie-talkie attacks was immediate and widespread. Fearing further strikes, Hezbollah's top commander and operatives went into hiding across Lebanon, making it difficult for them to coordinate any immediate retaliation. At the same time, Lebanon's emergency services were overwhelmed by the scale of the explosion and casualties. Hospitals struggled to cope with the influx of injured, stretched to their limits. Recognizing the gravity of the situation, Israel closed its northern border with Lebanon and placed its military forces on high alert, bracing for potential retaliation from Hezbollah. The United Nations Security Council also called an urgent meeting to address the escalating crisis and discuss potential diplomatic interventions. This marked a chaotic and disruptive period as Hezbollah's leadership went into hiding. Emergency services were strained, and the international bodies scrambled to respond to the unfolding events. As we'll see in the next slides, this operation signaled a shift in the conflict, with a new focus on the northern front with Lebanon. The pager and walkie-talkie attacks marked a significant turning point in the ongoing conflict, as Israel shifted its focus from the Gaza front to the northern border with Lebanon. According to Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, this operation signaled a new phase in the confrontation. This shift in focus from the Gaza to the northern front with Lebanon reflects a strategic decision by Israel to address the growing threat posed by Hezbollah. The group has been a long-standing adversary, and the attacks on its communication infrastructure suggest that Israel is now prioritizing this front and its ongoing efforts to counter the group's influence and capabilities. The attacks have significantly disrupted Hezbollah's command and control capabilities, causing chaos in their ranks. This has impacted their ability to coordinate both military and political activities, severely hampering their operations. The loss of fighters and critical communication assets has dealt a blow to Hezbollah's morale and damaged their physical infrastructure, including command centers and safe houses. This erosion of their capabilities and resources will make it more challenging for them to regroup and respond effectively. The attacks have heightened tensions in Lebanon, where the government is facing pressure from both Hezbollah and the international community. This threatens to destabilize the country and risk drawing it into a wider regional conflict, further complicating the already fragile situation. The attacks and the potential for further escalation have had a negative impact on Lebanon's already fragile economy. With a decrease in tourism and foreign investment, the economic downturn will only exacerbate the country's ongoing challenges and make recovery more difficult. The successful execution of these covert attacks has demonstrated Israel's technological superiority and its ability to penetrate Hezbollah's security measures. This could have a deterrent effect on future aggression, as Hezbollah and its backers may now be more wary of challenging Israel's capabilities. The attacks have raised concerns about the potential for a larger conflict involving Iran, Hezbollah's main backer, which could further destabilize the region and draw in other international actors. This threat of escalation underscores the delicate and volatile nature of the situation. As we have seen, the recent attacks on Hezbollah targets have had significant impacts, disrupting their operations, damaging their infrastructure, and heightening tensions in the region. Now let's take a look at how the international community has responded to these events. The United States has called for restraint while reaffirming its support for Israel's right to self-defense. This balancing act reflects the delicate geopolitical situation in the region. In contrast, Iran has strongly condemned the attacks and promised severe consequences for Israel. As Hezbollah's main backer, Iran's response signals its willingness to escalate the situation further. Russia has criticized Israel for escalating tensions and has offered to mediate talks between the parties. This positioning suggests Russia's desire to assert its influence in the region. The European Union has expressed concern over civilian casualties and has urged both sides to de-escalate the situation. The European Union's call for restraint underscores the broader international community's desire to avoid a widespread regional conflict. The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has called the attacks a dangerous escalation and has urged all parties to exercise maximum restraint. This statement reflects the UN's role in promoting stability and conflict resolution. These international reactions highlight the complex geopolitical landscape and the potential for the situation to escalate further. As we move forward, it's important to consider the technological implication of these attacks, which could have further-reaching consequences. Now let's quickly explore the broader technological implication of the recent attack. The vulnerabilities in everyday devices. The attacks have exposed how common consumers' electronics like pagers and walkie-talkies can be exploited and weaponized, raising concerns about the cybersecurity risks in other everyday devices. The supply chain security. The incidents highlight the importance of securing technology supply chain against infiltration, as the explosives were reportedly planted during the manufacturing process. Blurring of cyber and physical warfare. These attacks represent a new hybrid form of warfare, combining cyber attacks with physical consequences, blurring the traditional boundaries between digital and kinetic combat. Proliferation concerns. There are fears that the techniques used in these attacks could be adopted by other state and non-state actors, leading to the further proliferation of this type of hybrid warfare. These technological implications underscore the evolving nature of modern conflict and the need for comprehensive security measures to address both cyber and physical threats. Well, guys, that was a small presentation on the current event. I hope you liked this lecture. In case you did, please consider subscribing to my channel. Thank you. I see you in the next video.